last few years, I've become an avid bird watcher.
Okay.
And it happened really, really organically. So my grandmother passed from Tulsa. I picked up some things from their house, and one of them was a hummingbird feeder because she always had a ton. I put it out back in my patio. No hummingbirds came. I do some Google research.
Okay.
You need to put up red things to attract the hummingbirds.
Okay.
So I put up a hanging red plant. I put up a bunch of different red flowers and red ribbons and stuff.
Yeah.
And a house finch puts a nest in the red plant. And then a cowbird. Do you know about these?
I have no idea.
Okay, so a house
I'm
finch.
learning a lot here.
Okay, a house finch is a little bird,
Yeah.
and they put a nest in. A cowbird, I can't believe we're talking about this. Are you sure you're ready for this conversation?
We have time.
Okay, so a cowbird is native to Oklahoma.
Okay.
But they are a parasitic bird. So they drop their massive eggs in other birds' nests, let the other birds incubate them, and feed them to the detriment of the rest of the babies in the nest.
Wow.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah.
So cowbirds' histories with Oklahoma go way back. They used to travel with buffalo herds.
Okay.
So they're actually a protected species. You're not legally allowed to remove the cowbird eggs,
Even though they're ruining the other bit.
even though
that
they
just makes
kill
no sense.
massive amounts of songbirds.
Yeah.
So if you look it up, cowbird babies are about the size of a baseball. And all these other babies and full-grown birds are like from the
Tiny.
size to like a golf ball, that sort of thing. So these little full-grown birds are feeding these massive babies.
Yeah.
Anyway, the hummingbirds came, the finches came, the cowbirds came, and me as a journalist and a researcher just spiraled. And over the course of the
Yeah.
years, it's grown, and I moved, and I live on the edge of a green belt. So I have during the summers, 19 different feeders.
Yeah.
As well as birdhouses. And each feeder and its corresponding food is set to attract a different bird. And so there's been some on my bucket list, like the
Yeah.
painted bunting. It's a rainbow bird. It took me about 2 years, but I finally got those to come to my yard.
Yeah.
And I've seen everything from like giant hawks
Yeah.
who live out in the green belts, and turkey vultures, all the way down to a couple of I've seen 3 different species of hummingbirds.
Yeah.
And I can't totally justify why this happened, but it's become one of my deepest passions.
But I mean, it's like, build it and they will come.
Yes.
Like, it's the bird equivalent of like that whatever baseball movie that people are crucifying me listening to this I'm talking about.
Field of Dreams?
That one, yeah.
Yes.
With Costner, yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of like that. It's
And
like
I like the fact that you do that instead of going out into a field and like putting your binos on and just kind of spotting.
Yeah, I
birds.
don't have the time for
Right.
that,
Yeah.
but I do sit out there every morning
Yeah.
with my binoculars that stay on. So they're on there.
Yeah.
I'm usually listening to something on my phone, either
Bonicelli.
sometimes. And then I even have a nectar ring sometimes, so they'll come right up to me. But it's fascinating to me that you could build this ecosystem in your backyard on your property here, or
Yeah.
if you even have an apartment on your patio, you just have to have some sort of access
Yeah.
to an outdoor space. And yes, they will come to you. And so the January issue of 4 or 5 magazine, the cover was birding. And the whole thing is just about it. But it's also about how hobbies positively affect your mental health.
Right, yeah.
That was the whole spin on
Yeah.
it. And one of the quotes in there was talking about how bird watching and birding essentially really is about the cultivation of patience, and that as a discipline that brings you happiness and peace.
Yeah.
And so you set out to patiently wait there for these birds, and in the end, whether or not they come, you have still experienced a quiet moment of meditation. And so I think that's,
It's fascinating.
in summary, like, that's a daily part of my life, and it's one of my favorite things. And my husband said I went to bed one night and woke up 80. But I love it. I'm going to be able to do this
Yeah.
for the remainder of my days, which is so exciting to me.
Right, and then you can just kind of, patiently build something that, like you said, it took you 2 years to get a certain bird. Like,
Yeah.
This could take sometimes it might take 5 years, whatever it is. But when that day comes,
Oh my gosh, when I
You're the
saw
most
the painted
excited
bunny,
person in the world.
I wept. I wept. I watched it like take this moment in. And then when it had been there like maybe 30 seconds, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I think I can get my phone out and capture this moment.
Are
It
they
was
pretty
so
close
great.
to you then?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, probably 20 feet.
Okay.
But so I saw Mayor Holt before the issue came out, and I told him I was putting birding on the cover. And he's like, you put a bird on the cover of a magazine about Oklahoma City, a bird? I really second guessed myself. Like, oh my gosh, what have I done? Of all the cool things in this town, I went with a bird. Matt Payne and I actually have this shared passion. He
Okay.
helped us with that feature.
Yeah.
It went over great. I was right. Holt was wrong. But it was a risk, and he did make me second guess myself. But I hope that through this evangelizing that a few more people have considered it as a hobby.
Yeah. I mean, just listening to you talk about it, I love the fact, again, that you bring them to you. Like, I think that people think of birding in general, and they think, I'm going to go in the middle of a field, in the middle of nowhere. It takes me an hour to get there, and all this time, and I might just see a hawk pick up a mice or whatever it is, and that's it. But I'm glad you explained that, because it makes a lot of sense. And the fact that it comes from your nan's house, and that's kind of sentimental, and then you take up this hobby, and you never expected it, and now you are endlessly doom scrolling at the end of the night.
I know, right? It's
learning
wild.
Learning about birds.
I think I told this story on David's podcast, so if it's a repeat to any of you guys, sorry about that, but maybe there's not that much crossover audience. So remember that big giant freeze that happened?
Yeah. Every February for the last 2 years?
No, the big one.
Oh, okay.
The big one.
The really bad one.
That was like 10 days long at the end of this
2 years ago?
It was February, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody lost power, pipes froze, people dying.
Yeah.
Well, 90% of the state's bluebirds froze to death during that.
Oh, that's
awful, right?
Yeah.
They froze to death by the dozens, huddled together in their little houses. It was
heartbreaking.
Awful. Well, this really, really bothered me. But in researching that, I discovered that the United States bluebird population was on decline decades ago. And then this researcher formed the Bluebird Audubon Society and discovered that bluebirds, more than most bird species, are willing to accept man-made birdhouses to build their nests in.
Okay.
So he encouraged people to put up bluebird houses on their properties, and lo and behold, the bluebird population began to rise in the United States. And so I decided I would focus my efforts towards prioritizing making this bluebird population thrive again in whatever small way I could. So I got a new kind of feeder, I got some mealworms, I put up a little house, and within, I kid you not, 10 minutes, a bluebird checked it out.
Yeah.
I didn't get a bluebird nest that first season, but a full year later, sure enough, this last summer, a bluebird couple built a nest in there, fully successful, raised several babies, they fledged out, and now sometimes the babies come back to my yard. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like those are my babies. Like, the steps that I took helped give those babies life.
Right.
I can't explain how much fun this is for me.
The next you're going to tell me is you now have a business that's worldwide that develops these birdhouses.
I don't. No, I just go to like an agricultural shop or whatever and buy one. But I would really encourage anybody who's looking for a hobby to consider.
Julie's birdhouses. There it is.
No, just birding. Just do birding. I promise. If you have the least bit of interest in research and building things, you'll love it.